What's up, you guys?
What's up, you guys? So I'm here with a new video today. I'm here to bring you guys the next episode of how to beat this deck. I know it's been a while since we did this series here on the channel, but I could not resist to talk about this deck. You guys already know, out of Soul Fusion, the most talked about deck, the most hyped deck, and that is Thunder Dragons, you guys. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the deck, give a general synopsis, and we're also going to talk about how we combat this deck. Coming straight out of Soul Fusion with YCS Niagara Falls coming up, regionals coming up this weekend. You already know that this deck is going to be in attendance, and I want you guys to have the best shot to beating it. We're going to go over the general basics of the deck. Before we do, I want to give a huge shout out to Alex Buell. He was kind enough to not only do this for the community, but just in general help out the community understand Thunder Dragons. He recently did a deck profile of his Thunder Dragon deck on Simo's channel. Also, he wrote up basically what's known as a Thunder Dragon cheat sheet, which I'm going to reference in today's video. And it's basically to give you the general synopsis of how Thunder Dragons work and the best, way, to combat the deck, etc. And I just really want to shout him out and thank him for this. I actually messaged him and asked him if I could have permission to use this as a reference. He was kind enough to say absolutely. So I want to give him a shout out. He's also going to be starting his own YouTube channel, which I will have linked down below. So definitely be sure to check that out. I think it's awesome when a well-known player in the community, takes the time to, not only help us all out, but also contribute to us being successful in every format. So shout out to you, bro. I really appreciate it. So we're going to start with what the Thunder Dragons are, what they do, what cards you will see, and then we will get into the big list of cards that counter the deck, because there are quite a few ways to counter this deck. This deck is definitely not unbeatable, but you can definitely learn a lot from this video. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Just be sure to smash that like button. 50 plus likes lets me know that you enjoy it. But without further ado, let's get into it. So the main monsters you're going to encounter when playing against Thunder Dragons, the first one is Thunder Dragon Dark. So basically it's a level 5, 1600 attack, 1500 defense. What does it do? You discard it from your hand to add another copy of itself from your deck to your hand, or you can add one Thunder Dragon card if it's sent from the field to the graveyard. So what you'll notice with all these cards is that they all have discard effects, they all have graveyard and or banished effects. And they really benefit from being banished or sent to the graveyard. So basically, the reason why this card is good, and this is going to be taken again from the cheat sheet, that'll definitely give you guys a lot of insight to the deck. It's probably the most vital card in the deck. It serves as the primary form of consistency and is an instant thunder effect to special summon the Archetype's fusion monster. It's the best case scenario. Either the card's effects will be triggered every turn, including the opponent. So that's one thing, is that this is a quick effect. And since it is a quick effect, you can use it during either player's turn. And that makes the deck really, really versatile, because being able to summon your fusion monsters is just absolutely amazing. And this card makes it super simple and helps you get another copy of it in your hand for ultimate consistency. And this will be a card, of course, that you will see at 3. The next card is basically Thunder Dragonhawk. So discard it from your hand to special summon a Thunder Dragon monster in your graveyard and or banished. So that's its first effect. One thing I'll say is, again, since this deck relies on your monsters either being banished in the graveyard, which is basically what happens to all monsters in the game, the deck basically does not run out of steam, because you're able to revive monsters from the banished or the graveyard. So I think that's amazing. You basically have an infinite pool of monsters at your hand, and it kind of feels like Dragon Rulers did when you had infinite fodder to banish for them. Its other effect is you can shuffle any number of cards from your hand into the deck, then draw that many cards if it's sent from the field to the graveyard or banished. So this has like a Cosmo Town effect, which I think is awesome. Being able to, kind of mulligan your hand, fix your hand, and, being able to special summon from the banished pile or the graveyard is just insane. So card's really good. Why is the card good? Being able to remove any monsters in the archetype for free is absurd, especially since it then meets the condition to turn that monster into a fusion material. Again, you'll be able to summon your fusion monsters when you activate a Thunder Dragon effect in hand, so just remember that. The mulligan effect doesn't come into play that often, but it's in niche scenarios. It can fix your hand and turn the original Thunder Dragon into a genuine +1 instead of the otherwise fake card advantage. What he means by this is, with regular Thunder Dragon, you used to only be able to search itself, but this time you're able to search other cards. You'll see this card 2 to 3. It's just really good. You want to max out probably on this card, because being able to have a monster reborn from either your banished or graveyard and being able to fix your hand if you ever draw Bricky is awesome. The last main monster is Thunder Dragon Roar. This is a dark level 6, 2400 attack, 0 defense. You discard it to add a Thunder Dragon card from your graveyard or banish to your hand, or special summon one Thunder Dragon from deck in defense position. You return it to your hand in the end phase if the card is sent from the field to the graveyard or banished. So with that effect, basically you discard it and then you're able to add back a banished Thunder Dragon or Thunder Dragon that's in your graveyard. Again, what I've been emphasizing is that all these cards are recurring constantly. They're in the graveyard or they're banished. That's the only place they can ever be if they're not already on the field, and this gives you infinite access to them. And I think that's what makes this deck so powerful, is the fact that you have infinite access to them. And Dragon Roar helps you just add back cards you want to use. You can add back Dragon Dark, discard it, search, then you meet the requirement to summon your fusions, and I mean, it's just insane. It becomes kind of like a loop where you're constantly looping your monsters, and I think that's really, really cool. So and then its other effect when it's sent is being able to tutor out a monster from the deck. It does return to your hand, but it's just the fact that it puts an extra body on the field, can become a link material thing, a fusion material thing, etc. And I think that's just insane. So both effects of this card are pretty self-explanatory, but being able to add back whenever is needed or float another monster into the deck for free and are staples in every competent deck, allows the deck to naturally grind to maintain board presence. You'll see probably 2 copies of this in the deck, because even though adding cards back is powerful, you really don't want to see it in your hand. Like, your general ratio is going to be 3 of the Dragon Dark, 3 of the Dragon Hawk, and 2 of the Dragon Roar. This just makes it to where you're able to, just maximize consistency and also just get all your effects off. The next monster is one of the only normal summons in the deck, and that is Thunder Dragon Matrix, or whatever. And what is it? You discard it to boost a Thunder Dragon by 500 attack permanently, or add a copy of itself from the deck when it's sent from the hand, when it's sent when it's sent to the graveyard or banished. This card is basically like one of the only normal summons you have in the deck, and what's cool about it is that you're able to just basically set it up to add another +1, like adding itself, or being able to give that 500 attack boost is really awesome because the fusions are already big. So being able to just punch over other monsters for basically free is like insane. How many of these are played? You're gonna play 3 of them. It's being a normal summon, it's crucial that both of its effects it basically helps you get to your core strategy and your win condition of the deck. So I think the card's really, really cool. The next card we're going to talk about is the only spell in the deck that is actually Thunder Dragon base. You guys already know about Gold Sark. I'm not going to go into that. You guys already know being able to banish any of the Thunder Dragons is broken. That's why our deck's going to be insane, because until the new ban list, we're going to have 3 Gold Sark, so that's pretty nuts. But we have Thunder Dragon Fusion. It's your normal spell, and what does it do? It fusion summons a Thunder Fusion monster from the extra deck, shuffling the materials listed from the field, graveyard, or banished into the deck. So basically, you get to recycle your monsters to fusion summon. That's insane. I mean, that's just awesome. Like, it's, I think that's what I was trying to say, is that you get infinite use of your monsters. I think it's crazy. That's really, really cool. You can banish itself from the graveyard other than the turn it was sent there to add any thunder from your deck to your hand. So not only are you getting a fusion summon, but on the next turn you can banish it and get another card. Like, that's insane. And basically, just to run down, why is it good? Even though the Thunder Dragons can be contact fused by using the materials within the archetype itself, the fusion is strong in that it allows for additional fusion summons to be put on board, meanwhile refueling the engine by returning cards into the deck that aren't needed. This can also allow for infinite fusion summons over the course of the game by retrieving it from the banish with Dragon Roar. Remember that you can retrieve it with Dragon Roar, and then fusion summoning for Titan by shuffling a previously used fusion monster, Dragon Roar, and or Thunder Dragon monster from the deck. Meaning, as long as there's a 3rd fusion material and this card resolves, the deck will never not be able to summon its win conditions, which are the fusions. Its second effect is particularly strong, as it's regulated to adding a card within the Thunder Dragon monster within the archetype, and instead of being able to add any monster within the type. Though in the majority of situations, adding a Thunder Dragon monster will be the optimal play. The ability to add relatively anything gives the deck versatility, and in vacuum, being able to search a card like Denko Sekka. Remember, it said Thunder Monster, you guys. So remember, you can search Thunder. You can search Denko Sekka, which is honestly insane. So that's just something to remember. This card basically makes it to you have a searchable Denko Sekka. Most decks will play 1 to 2 copies. Basically, it's basically because you're gonna bring out most of your fusions by contacting. So it's necessary to also have it, though, and it cannot use monsters in the hand as fusion materials, meaning it requires setup. So remember that whenever a card requires setup, you don't want to max out on it, because if you draw it opening hand without setup, it's a brick. So just remember that. it's just important to play it because you get the best value out of it, and you also keep your consistency. So that's for all like the main deck cards. And then, of course, I forgot to mention the aforementioned regular Thunder Dragon. Discard this card, add 2 Thunder Dragons from the deck. It's a +1, and I mean, being able to just search what you need is insane. If you're not playing regular Thunder Dragon in the deck, it's basically like playing a Blue Eyes White Dragon deck without Blue Eyes White Dragon. So that's all you really need to know. Other monsters, of course, are the Battery Man Solar. I'm not going to talk about that. You guys already know, Foolish Burial, etc. But the main reason that we play this deck is because of the 2 fusions. Mainly, the first one, Thunder Dragon Colossus. It's a level 8 dark, 2600 attack, 2400 defense. Its requirements are Thunder Dragon plus 1 Thunder monster. What's it do? Well, face up, the opponent cannot add cards from their deck to their hand except by drawing them. If it would be destroyed by a card or battle effect, a Thunder can be banished from the graveyard instead. It's also summonable by attributing a Thunder on the field. The turn a Thunder Dragon is activated in hand. This card is a behemoth. This is a mistake on legs, and it also is protected from being destroyed by banishing another Thunder monster. That's honestly insane. This card does so much, and it basically is one of the win conditions of the deck. Why is it good? It's the glue that holds everything together and a perfect mix of a threatening boss monster that's very easy to summon, and it depends on the impact preventing searches has on the format. We already know Sky Strikers, Gokis, everything that searches, this basically says no. And if you can back this up with anything else, it pretty much is like a win condition by itself. I think this card is insane. Also, the fact that what makes it already powerful even better is that it can protect itself, whereas a lot of monsters could not do that. It's also really cool that any of the times that you banish any of the Thunder Dragon monsters to protect it, you trigger their effects as well, so you're getting infinite pluses. And basically, overall, this is the main reason to play this deck. You have a walking mistake, you can summon multiple of them depending on your link arrows, and they're extremely easy to summon and very powerful. Anything that says your opponent cannot add cards is just nuts. It's basically like, we remember how powerful Thunder King was, we know how powerful Mistake was, and now this is them in an even bigger monster form. So this card is honestly the nuts. You're going to play 3. It's the win condition of the deck, and unless being teched by an engine, the thought of playing less than the maximum copies is just not right. It is like the main thing you can do, and being able to summon more than 1 per turn is just insane. So just remember that. And then lastly, we're going to talk about Thunder Dragon Titan. This is the level 10. It's a 3200 attack, 3200 defense. It takes 3 Thunder Dragon monsters. Its effect is destroy 1 card on the field whenever the effect of the Thunder is activated in the hand. If it would be destroyed by a card effect, banish 2 cards from the graveyard instead. So basically, this card is how you get around problematic cards. Why is it good? Despite despite its stats, it isn't as it isn't as powerful as Colossus. Even with 3200, its effect to destroy cards when a Thunder Dragon in his hand is not only once per turn, but also doesn't target. So remember that this card is non-targeting destruction. Whenever anything is non-targeting, you guys know how good that is because of how many cards in the game can be targeted, and then that causes a problem. So being able to play around that is honestly insane. I think it's just really cool. It's easier to get on the field. It doesn't have to banish. It doesn't have to banish Thunders to save itself. You can just banish 2 cards. I would say that it's just really good though because it's just like another beater, and also just being able to clear the way to just OTK the opponent is nuts. You'll play like 2 to 3 copies. I don't know if the deck will actually max out on this. It's one of the deck's win conditions. It's like you want to play 2, but having an extra copy can push for more damage. Another thing is that if Colossus is slow to the game, basically like you use Colossus to slow down the game and then you use Titan to seal the match. So just remember that. That's just another thing to remember about these cards. So, all right, we've talked about all the cards in the deck. You guys should now be familiar with it. I know I have the Japanese versions on here. It's just because the English versions haven't been completely released yet, but I've given you guys the best synopsis. I'll also link this cheat sheet down below for you guys to check out, just to help you guys out. And now we're going to go into the part that you guys actually helped to create, and that is how do we beat this deck. I made a post saying, give me your guys' best options to beat this deck, and we created this list together. So I'm going to start with the monsters that we're going to use to combat this deck. Remember, as good as a Yu-Gi-Oh deck is in every format, there was always a way to beat it, and believe it or not, there's quite a list of cards that can beat this deck. So we're going to start with the monsters. So, as you guys know, this deck relies on sending cards to the graveyard and especially banishing cards. So, the main thing we want to do is be able to stop the opponent from banishing, and there are 2 cards that come to mind immediately, and that first one is Artifact Lancia. This card was amazing when Mech Knight Invoked was one of the most played decks. You just activated it, Invocation fizzled, the opponent didn't have a good time. Also, it was just really good against Infernoids. It was good against pretty much any deck that would banish, and this card basically turns off their entire turn. They cannot banish for the entire turn, so none of their effects trigger off. Sure, they could do like some cute stuff like activate Thunder Dragon and search and then get the fusion, but other than that, they're not going to be banishing. They're not going to be getting any additional pluses, and I think it's very, very strong. Its brother to that is Chaos Hunter. Again, this card hasn't seen play in a while, but this was a card that you used, you know, against Trickstars, against Infernoids, against any deck that banished, like ABC, the Lightsworn deck with Snow, etc. And this card may see a resurgence because not only is it a 2500 beater, but the fact that it locks out banishing is really, really strong. So I definitely could see this card potentially making a comeback. I think that anything that locks out banishing is really strong. And the fact that it's a monster, the fact that it's a beater is very, very strong as well, because you can apply it to other matches. It's also really good against Invoked. It's good against Trickstars, good against tons of decks, so I think the card's really cool. Of course, we cannot forget Kaijus. Kaijus are insane. The fact that, okay, they're going to go Colossus, whatever, you know, you just Kaiju over it. It's not being destroyed, so they can't banish to save it or whatever, so Kaijus can lock it out. We already know how good Kaijus are. They literally just deal with problematic monsters, and since Colossus will be a problematic monster for a lot of decks, I feel Kaijus are really good. They also have added applications against Sky Strikers, putting a monster in the main monster zone and turning off their spells, so every format, Kaijus pop up. They're going to pop up again, so don't be surprised if you see Kaijus. Now, I know you guys have been asking me, Slim, okay, what hand traps do we use? There are only 2 hand traps I can think of that are really good, to be honest, and I would say that they are Ash Blossom and Joyous Springs, as well as Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion. Ash Blossom, you guys already know. This should come as no surprise. Ash Blossom has always been one of the most versatile cards in the game. It also, you know, can just hit so many things. Whenever they would add, you know, you Ash. Whenever they would, you know, send a grave, you Ash, you know, you guys know how this works. The thing is, though, I think a lot of people are undermining Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion. It just started to see a lot more play because its effects against Goki is really strong, being able to hit Soul Charge, Monster Born, etc. But also they forget that it's able to lock out a lot of the Thunder Dragon's effects, since Ghost Bell stops adding a card from the graveyard to the hand, deckhand, or extra deck, special summoning a monster from the graveyard, or banishing a card from the graveyard. So basically, if they try to protect any of the guys, you can bell that, you can get over the problematic monster. They try to banish anything, you just get over it. They try to add back with any of the Thunder Dragon effects, you just bell it. I think Bell's going to see a lot more play. I think it's definitely a card that people are, you know, starting to pick up on. It's definitely going to be a card you're going to see used this format. So those are the 2 hand traps I feel are the best. I don't think Ogre is that good. Joel is like whatever. Joel is always kind of like whatever. I don't really like Cherries that much against it. I think that there's ways to play around it. You can just put it back with the, you know, the fusion spell. So I honestly feel that Bell and Blossom are the best ways to combat Thunder Dragons. That's it basically for the main monster effects. I'm sure I left some out, but again, that's going to be for you guys in the comments. Anything I left out, leave in the comments below. On to the spells. We have Widow Anchor. Widow Anchor is insane. If you're playing Sky Strikers, which is still a really good deck, even if you get mistaked, you can still play around it, you can still play out of it, and Widow Anchor is one of those ways. It's an effect veiler, and if you have nothing else, it's an effect veiler that turns off Colossus. It doesn't destroy it, so you're not going to be banishing cards to protect it, but it turns off Colossus, which makes your engage live again. So since you play 3 of it, you're probably going to see it, you're going to have ways to it. The card is still really, really strong for Sky Striker, so Widow Anchor is definitely one of the best ways to combat this, as well as a card like Forbidden Chalice. Forbidden Chalice, Infinite Impermanence, whatever you want to call it, anything that basically can stop a monster's effect is really strong. Chalice has seen play. It just pops its heads up in random formats. This may be another format that it does. We were all playing Chalice because of the Zexalock and Pendulums. Well, basically think of it like that. They have the Colossus on the board where you literally just Chalice it and then you can play Yu-Gi-Oh! So I think Chalice will definitely be a card that we see as well. As well as my personal favorite from this entire list is Mind Control. You guys know how much I love Mind Control. Having played Mech Knight Invoke, this card again is the nuts. You just Mind Control away the Colossus, link away with it. Bye, Felicia. Like literally, you deal with the problem. And not only that, but Mind Control has added versatility not only against this deck, but against pretty much every deck in the format. You just take away the problem monster for free. And not only that, you can activate multiple Mind Controls in a turn, so you can just take away an entire board and link away for free. I think that is insane. So without a doubt, I think Mind Control is one of the best cards on this list and a personal favorite of mine. So definitely be considering Mind Control because it has versatility across the spectrum of decks this format. And lastly, we're going to get into the traps. I didn't list many, but I listed the ones that I feel that are the most impactful. And where would we be playing against a fusion deck without a card that basically says you cannot fusion summon? That's right, Dimensional Barrier. This card has started to go up in price. You guys already know why. It's amazing against this deck. Just flip it, call fusions. They don't play Yu-Gi-Oh! You guys know how it was against Pendulums. You guys know how it was against Invoked. It's the same exact thing. They may be able to link, but they can't fusion. If they can't fusion, they're not getting to their win condition. They are not winning the game. Dimensional Barrier, insane. What else can I say? And last but not least, Imperial Iron Wall. This card literally is a more permanent version of Artifact Lancey. It just makes it to where you can't banish cards, so they're not going to be getting any of those added effects. The Gold Sarks are going to be dead, and sure, they can play around it. Sure, they can find ways around it, but it's definitely going to be a floodgate that locks them out of the game. So these are my ways of combating Thunder Dragons, you guys. Don't be afraid when a new deck comes out. Don't think that it's the end of the world. We've gone through worse formats, and there's always ways to beat all these decks. Now, granted, I did not mention every possible card, and I did that on purpose. And why did I do that on purpose? Because that's where you guys come in. We created this list together, and we're going to create more options down in the comments below. So please let me know the way you're combating Thunder Dragons. And what did you think of this video? Do you think I covered a lot of the best ways to combat the deck? Do you have other ways? Do you have more efficient ways? Just let me know in the comments below. Again, shout out to you, Alex. Thank you again for the cheat sheet and just, you know, supporting the community with a great way to understand the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Just be sure to smash that like button to let me know that you guys did. 50 plus likes would be awesome to continue this series. I hope that you guys learned a lot from this video. I hope this helps you going into the YCS Niagara Falls as well as any regionals or other events that are coming up. I will not be attending Niagara, but I will be at YCS Pasadena, so expect the deck to do well this weekend and the upcoming weekends leading to that YCS. But I definitely feel that this is a good guide to give you guys an understanding of how to combat the deck. Not only that, but what the deck basically does and how to play around it and how to be successful at your upcoming events. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Give it a thumbs up, and thank you for watching.